vacation and all that good stuff. All right. So you want to get right into it?
Let's do it.
All right. So first thing we're going to talk about, big news coming out. All of these NCAA conference shakeups. What is your take on everything that's been going on?
It's like this big money grab, and I'm really disappointed on all the stuff that's going on.
It's kind of pathetic, isn't it?
It is. It's just sad. I mean, I guess I was really disappointed in really the Syracuse Pitt move to the ACC because, in really not even from a football. I know it's like football season, so I guess I'm geared toward football. But I mean, Syracuse was such a great basketball school, the Big East. To leave them go ACC, I don't know.
I know exactly what you're saying. It's like you look at this and all the conference moves that have been talked about, Texas A&M going to the SEC, it's all football.
Right.
It's not basketball. It's all football. So Pitt and Syracuse want to go to the ACC. It's still football. It's not. It has nothing to do with their basketball programs. And so you really start to wonder, like, what are these conferences going to end up with? And I think for me, and this might sound a little ridiculous, but I kind of worry about the players. That they're in college and you're not going to have as much regional games as you used to.
Right.
Then these people are going to be traveling all over the place. I mean, that really hurts their studies.
Right.
Not that most of these kids are really there for school.
Now you're in Syracuse. You got to fly down to Miami to play a football game.
It just doesn't make sense.
Right. It just, to me, it's sort of, and I'm a traditionalist, and I guess people who watch this program know I am. But, it's just sort of disappointing because it just sort of shakes up everything. College football used to be a regional sport. Everybody cared about, you kind of cared about your region, but now it's become this national type. And I just think it kind of loses some of what was special about it.
Yeah, and I start to worry that some of this isn't really going to happen. Like, it could all go down at once, but it's not going to, because I think a lot of it's going to hinge on this whole Texas Longhorn network and Notre Dame, and so some of these aren't really going to.
Notre Dame, what do you think?
I think Notre Dame.
I'm hearing ACC.
If they, they're going to have to join a conference for football. None of this "I'm independent for football" kind of crap anymore.
I think they fit better in the Big Ten, but they're not going to do it because I think they want the cupcake schedule.
I go to the regional thing, but I know that they do have a lot of games with Florida State, and they've got some tie-ins down there. So I can understand why they might want to go ACC. I just think that when you look at the conferences, it should get back to the regionality of it.
Right. No, I agree with that.
All
right.
What
we got next?
Next up, NFL, ups and downs, pros, cons, good, bad.
Yeah,
who's looking good and who's looking ugly?
I've actually really watched a lot of NFL games. I got the NFL package, so I watched the NFL games last 2 weeks. I think you got to look at like the Lions. I think the Lions, everyone was kind of really up on the Lions. They could be this year, and they're 2-0, and they're living up to it. So
they are 2-0. However, one of those games was against Kansas City, who we all know is pretty much. I think they're pretty much going to get Andrew Luck because they're terrible.
You can only play the teams on your schedule.
Exactly,
right? That's all you can do.
Some of these teams though have had really tough schedules. I mean, it feels like it. Like New Orleans has had to play the Packers and the Bears, and I think that's kind of a tough schedule. Right. After 2 games, it's hard to say somebody's really, really good, but. Yeah, the Lions have looked good. I just hope they can keep it going.
Yeah. No, it'd be good because that franchise has been down for so long. I think it'd be good for football. I was really surprised by Pittsburgh just getting the tar beat out of them on week 1 by Baltimore.
Seemed like they
look horrible.
It seemed like they just weren't ready to go.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess that defense has been so good. They're a little age, though. I mean,
they're going to get old.
You got Pamalu back there.
But it's not like like the Ravens' defense is that young either.
That's
true. They've got some guys that have been around forever, like Ed Reed and Ray Lewis.
Well, even they laid an egg, right? They had that big win at Pittsburgh, maybe a little bit of an emotional layoff.
But when you talk about the Chiefs being 0-2, and I mean they're getting pummeled by teams. Do you think any of that's Charlie Weiss going to Florida? I mean,
could be. No, that's a good point.
Was he the offensive guru?
No, that's a great point. It just seems like they played way above their heads last year. It's like just one of those teams that sort of sneak. They have a good year, but they're really not that great. But here and then they come out this year and they kind of show their true colors. Not that fantastic.
You still ready for the Jets? Are they going to Super Bowl?
I think they got a shot. I think Jets got a shot. The Sanchez has got to play a little better, but I think they got a shot.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. We'll keep going on. Sticking in the NFL though, Peyton Manning's out. Obviously, that's a huge.
He's on my
story.
fantasy team. He's killing me.
Yeah. So what do you think? Is he coming back?
I don't think he's going to come back.
You don't think he's coming back?
Well, I felt pretty good. I've kind of gone in stages. I felt pretty good about it. And then I thought, well, there's no way he's going to miss a game.
Well, it's like they kept him on the roster and didn't put him on injured reserve, so you're kind of thinking, like, he's going to be back in 3 or 4 games. Right. Then he has another surgery, and you're kind of like, well...
Well, now he's in Europe for some, like, experimental treatment or something. I mean, that can't be good. But my sense is, he's not going to be back this year.
I think if they can get to the point where they're maybe in playoff contention, he's back, and they'll play him. If
playoff contention, they're 0-2.
Hey... It's not like you can't make it when you're 0-2. I mean,
I don't know the statistics, but
it's pretty bad.
It's not positive, yeah.
It's like 12%. 12% of teams, but
it doesn't look good for him.
It does not look good, no. But I'm hopeful he's going to come back. Otherwise, they're what?
I am too, because I want to plug him in. I got Rex Grossman and McNabb trading out my.
Come on, they're pretty good. They're keeping it.
Grossman had a good year. I don't know about McNabb.
All right, so moving on. Obviously, we got the baseball jerseys on. Baseball's kind of wrapping up here.
It's getting interesting here at the end.
Wild card races, yeah. I mean, you picked the Red Sox. Are they going to be able to hold off the Rays?
I mean, they're getting beat by the Orioles now. I mean,
they've been really downhill.
Yeah,
really.
The pitching. I mean, Lackey and some of these guys, they got pitching for them. They're just really kind of dropping the ball here at the end.
So what do you think? Who's going to win the AL wild card there?
I think the Red Sox pull it out because I think what the Rays have, the problem is they have those games against the Yankees at the end.
Yeah.
And I think the Red Sox
I was looking at that too. The Red Sox have the Orioles and the Rays against the Yankees, and I think because of that, the Red Sox will squeak in. But
right, the Orioles. I mean, I got Orioles tickets on the weekends, but the Orioles have played so.
But we agree the Angels have no chance, right? I mean,
come on, the Angels got a chance. Come on, they're only 3 or 4 games out. I mean, anything can happen. I mean, come on. So you like the National League?
The National League, I'm going to stick with Atlanta. I think they got a couple games against the Nats, but. So that probably helps them out.
Well, Nats are coming on.
San Francisco's kind of, I don't think they got a chance. And you look at St. Louis, they've been kind of up and down this season. I think Atlanta holds on to it, and they'll keep the wild card. I think it'll be interesting, and it'll be a little bit climactic, but I think Atlanta holds on at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do too. The bullpen for Atlanta is just like really fallen off the map over the last 2 weeks, and that's what's led the Cardinals back in it. The Giants a little further back. But I hate to agree. I hate to agree with you, but I think
who wants agreement?
I think the Braves pull it out, but they are not. They're not playing very well right at this point. So we'll see what happens.
So what do you think though? Who's making the World Series? You sticking with your gut with Red Sox? Right?
I think the Phillies are still going to go.
Yeah. The Red Sox.
I don't know. I don't know if they're getting it done right now.
I know
the Tigers are pretty hot.
And that was whose pick was that?
I don't know.
I had the Tigers.
Maybe someone from Toledo, Ohio.
That's right. That's right.
But Verlander's just on fire. But the trouble with
they got to have more than just Verlander.
But if Verlander's got to win, right? So you get a 7-game series. You figure they're going to pitch him on 3 days rest. He's going to go games 1, 4, 7. So I mean, it's possible, but they're playing good ball. They got a good lineup. It's just
interesting.
It is. It's going to be fun to watch.
We'll get back to that in a week or so.
No, it sounds good.
All right, so our last topic for today, we're looking at, what is this, fantasy leagues?
No, it just, this is my second year in fantasy leagues, so we really want to lay out.
I just want to clarify, are we talking fantasy leagues or fantasy football?
Well, we'll talk fantasy football since it's the season.
Because to anybody out there are fantasy, like NHL, NBA, there are fantasy leagues, but nobody talks about it. Nobody plays it. It just doesn't play fantasy. It doesn't work. Because the NFL plays all their games in like a 2-3 day span, and you can really keep track. So baseball. Whew, we got to get me started. It's like when your pitcher's pitching.
Right. So what we're really talking about is how it's really changed how you view.
It's definitely changed
how fans view football.
So come on, tell me.
Well, it's just
2 years in.
I'm watching 2 years in. I kind of swore off in last year. I got talked back into this year, but it's like. You're trying to watch your team, but now it's all about like what's going on. You're watching the bug at the bottom. What's my quarterback over here doing? I just think it's it's taken a little bit away from rooting for your traditional team. Hey, I want them to win. I want to make sure that that's the most important thing. Now it's like, well, I lost, but dadgummit, here, 8 of my guys went for 25 points. You know what I'm saying?
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. This is what you do because this is the way I do it. You don't stray from your team. So I don't care if my fantasy players are playing against Chicago. I just root for Chicago when I'm watching that game.
Yeah, but how do you do that?
But I just do it. You just sit down and you do it.
Right. You're just mentally strong.
And then every other game you watch, you root for your fantasy players. And I think that's the great part about it is that I don't just watch the Bears on the weekend. I watch all these other games, and I'm interested in all these other players that I normally wouldn't have cared about because they're on my fantasy team. And so the average fan gets into a lot more games than they would have in the past.
I'll say this thing. For the last 2 years, I probably know more about players than I ever have. But the problem is, I think it changes the way that you really view the team now. It's not so much about getting behind your team and uniting behind, united front. Let's root them through.
If you don't have,
now it's like this.
If you don't have the guts to stick behind your team, if you don't have the guts to stick behind your team and say, I don't care, I don't care about the $200 I can win through my fantasy football.
I think you're in denial.
You just got to focus on your team when your team's playing.
I think you're in denial about it.
If you're a fan of your team, you're a fan of your team.
Okay, has it not changed the way you view football? Has it not?
But not for my team. Not for my team. Because I root for my team.
What happens when your team's defense is going up against your starting?
Doesn't matter. I root for my team.
Come on.
That's what I do.
Come on.
I'm
not buying it.
If you're not a big enough fan of the Jets to root for the Jets,
I root for the Jets.
Tom Brady because Tom Brady's on your team, then that's your problem.
It's not rooting for them. Of course you're rooting for your team. But it's sort of this bittersweet, hey, I want the Jets to win, but I want Brady to put up whatever, right? Or I want the Bears to win, but it causes a dilemma. You got to admit that.
I'm just saying you're not.
See, I'm being honest.
I'm just saying.
I'm out here. I'm putting out.
I'm honest
about it.
I'm just saying.
I'm not this like, well, I just got it all figured out.